Hey, what's going on? This is Andre Swingy, the Life Specialist. Welcome to the Get a Life Show, the show that gives you the tools and principles necessary for an outstanding life. Today's segment is called Marriage for Life, and today I'm talking to you from the standpoint of face reality. Listen, I am on a personal mission, a personal crusade to make sure every couple that I personally coach stays together forever. Listen, we live in a country with a 50% divorce rate, and it is my mission to put a dent in that number. Today we're talking about facing reality. Listen, oftentimes as couples, things happen in our marriages. Things are going wrong. Life is chaotic. The kids are tripping. The bills are everywhere. And we rather bury our heads in the sand than deal with issues. Let me tell you something. You decided to walk down that aisle as a man. You decided to walk down that aisle as a woman. Now, don't start clamming up now. Don't live in some fantasy world now. No, you thought you were big and bad enough to be married. You thought you had it all together. You thought you knew better. And so you decided to take this union together, and now you're married. Well, you have to face reality head on. You can't duck. You can't hide. You can't pretend like you're in another world. You can't live in some fantasy. You have to deal with issues. This comes down to communication. And many times we live in a fantasy world because we really don't want to talk to each other. But in order to make it, in order not to be a part of that 50% group I talked to you about, you got to face reality. You got to look at your problem head on and deal with it. Many of us live in a fantasy world about our finances. We're robbing Peter to pay Paul. We can't keep the lights on. We can't keep our houses. We're being evicted. But do we say anything? No, we don't say anything. We don't talk about our spending habits. We don't have tough conversations about, hey, what are you doing with your money? We don't make decisions as couples. We live as individuals. And then when everything gets cut off, when we start losing stuff, then we want to get upset. Most marriages break up because of financial problems. Why? Because people are not talking. People are not dealing with reality. We're buying what we want to buy. We're doing what we want to do, and everything is falling apart. And what are we saying to each other? Not nearly enough. You have to face reality about your finances. Do something about it. Change it. Don't sit in a situation where you're begging the rest of your life, where you're barely making it, where you're scraping. Come together as a couple. Sit down. Get a plan. And work your plan. But face the reality of it. Many of you, as a couple, are struggling sexually. Oh yeah, before a lot of you got married, you were screwing like bunnies. Oh yeah, you were swinging up the chandeliers. When you first got married as newlyweds, those of you who waited, you were having sex every other day. But now that problems have arisen, children have come, bills are due, schedules, businesses, going to work. Now you're too tired. Now you're frustrated. Now you're too stressed out to have sex with your mate. So what do? You don't talk about it. Oh, you don't even think about it. You sit there and look at your mate when they're ready for sex, and you pretend like you got a headache or there's an issue. Listen, I don't care how much you choose to ignore it, it's a problem. When you don't have sex with your mate, it's an issue. And the bottom line is, if you're not talking about it together, somebody in the relationship is probably talking about it with somebody else. And that's how infidelity happens. That's the seed of cheating. A man's not getting what he wants at home, so he starts talking to somebody else. Bad move, sir. But wife, you can't be in a fantasy land. You can't pretend like he doesn't have needs. You can't pretend like it's not an issue. You have to face reality. Get the team together and talk about that thing. What about your children? What's going on with them? How are their grades? How are they getting along socially? How are they interacting at school? How is their behavior? Are they on drugs? Are they lazy? Are they complacent? Many times parents, you live in a fantasy world about your own children. And everybody else can see what your children are except for you. Because you don't want to deal with reality. You want to pretend like everything's okay, when really it's not. You got to deal with that stuff. What about abuse? Many of you women are getting smacked upside the head and you're living a normal life like everything is okay. What is wrong with you? What kind of fantasy world do you live in that allows you to get abused and you act like everything is okay? Or maybe he's not punching you in the face, but maybe he's calling you names every day. Maybe he belittles you. And it's not just men abusing. A lot of you women are abusing men. You don't respect your husband. You don't treat him like the man he deserves to be treated. You say what you want to say and you do what you want to do. But we just keep on skirting around the issues. Listen, marriage can be full of complication, but it also can be a beautiful thing if you deal with reality. If you're honest with each other about where you are. If you recognize where you are, then you can do something about it. What I want to say to you today is stop living in a fantasy world. Stop pretending like things aren't the way they are. Your marriage can improve if you intentionally try to improve them. Get out of the fantasy world and check back in. It's time to live in reality. This is Andre Sweeney, the Life Specialist, and I'm here to help you get a life.